Welcome to episode 66 of the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Drevenstedt. Our guests today are Jonas Zahn and Brenda Kuhl, who will be competing in the motorcycle Cannonball, a cross-country endurance run on antique motorcycles. It's an event that's held every 2 years, and the model year criteria and route changes with each event. The 2023 Cannonball is limited to pre-1933 motorcycles, and it will have 100 entries. The event is scheduled to run from September 7th to 24th, and it will start in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and conclude in Oceanside, California. Over 18 days, Cannonball competitors will travel through 10 states and cover more than 3,800 miles. Every rider and motorcycle who participates in the Cannonball has a story, but Jonas Zahn, Brenda Kuhl, and their 1928 Moto Guzzi sidecar rig have a particularly interesting backstory. So, Jonas, Brenda, welcome to the show. It's great to see you both and the Moto Guzzi right behind you.
Fun to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And so where are you based?
Well, we are based in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
Okay. And you look like you're in your shop. Is that a home shop or is that what shop is that?
This is my personal motorcycle shop. It is in a commercial building that I operate a couple of other businesses out of as well.
Okay. Well, let's get a little bit of your background. I mean, riding antique motorcycles is definitely kind of a niche within motorcycling, and obviously dedication to that, to antique motorcycles to the degree that you would take on the Cannonball is even a bigger commitment. So tell us how you got into riding antique motorcycles and joining the Cannonball.
So ever since I was a very little kid, I've always liked motorcycles. My grandpa had Harleys and he had stories and photo albums. And I fantasized about riding a motorcycle as old as grandpa had at some point. I think his oldest one is a 1934 Harley Davidson. Grew up fixing and repairing and restoring and taking care of antique tractors. The 1928 Moto Guzzi parked here is very similar to a tractor with its magneto and throttle and choke and adjusting the valves on a regular basis. So very similar. I've always liked touring the country motorcycles. It's been a while since I've been raising a family, but my kids have pretty much grown up now, so I can go back to touring. So when I heard about Motorcycle Cannonball during the event the last time around, I thought to myself, how have I not heard of this event that combines two things I love so much, motorcycling and tinkering with vintage motorcycles? So I applied and then had to start looking for a motorcycle and settled on a Moto Guzzi from Italy and imported it. Just to do this event.
So in terms of signing up for the Cannonball, it's not just a pay your money and you can get in. I know it's limited to 100 entries, but what's the application process like?
So you do have to write an essay. It's pretty open, a few questions about who you are, where you're from, but really the essay portion, they don't really disclose what they're looking for, but I'm pretty sure they're looking for somebody who's quirky enough to try this, fit enough to try this. It's definitely a club that I'm looking forward to meeting many of the other members of. It's hard. It's hard for some people to appreciate, having a nearly 100-year-old machine designed and built by men who have been gone for generations, and women, I might say, and keeping it running, much less keeping it running to cross the entire country, 3,800 miles, 17 days. This is a monumental task. I mean, we've had a hard time just getting 150 miles in a day.
Wow.
And we're a week out. So this is going to be very challenging.
Yeah.
And do most Cannonball participants, do they ride solo? I mean, I know most of them are not bikes equipped with sidecars. So tell us about how you had a two-person effort.
So to my knowledge, there are only 3 sidecars in the race, and all 3 of us are actually from Wisconsin. So there's a little shout out to my buddies from when I originally entered Cannonball and ordered this particular machine from Italy, I had found 2 very similar, one with and one without the sidecar, and I thought it's almost the same money. I might as well have a sidecar. The plan was to take it off, but then Brenda here, after several discussions, after several beers over a period of several weekends, said, let's keep the sidecar on and put somebody in it. So that's kind of where Brenda's story picks up here.
Yeah.
So Brenda, what attracted you to the idea of participating?
Well, just to see the country a little bit more. Just there's so many things that Cannonball has teased us with some of the bridges that we'll cross, 18 tunnels, this the 3,800 miles, not on a freeway going a zillion miles an hour. I tend to not like to always ride as fast as possible. I kind of slow down, and this is giving me an opportunity just to like take it all in and go at a little slower pace. Right now, we were doing a couple hundred miles the other day, and we're between 32 and 45 miles per hour.
Okay.
So it's going to be a way to see
that's
a lot
an improvement.
of stuff.
That's an improvement. 32 we used to get. So
Right.
Well, so since you've got this 1928 Moto Guzzi, tell us a little bit about it. You said that you imported it from Italy. Tell us a little bit about its engine, its power, and so forth, its provenance.
Yes. So this motorcycle is registered in 1928, but it is actually the 1929 and 30 model year.
Okay.
When we had the original registration, it was registered probably late 1928, so it was an early 29 release. The serial number, though, is in the mid 6,000s, which makes it, according to the whole antique Moto Guzzi community, the oldest known 1929 model year to remain, the oldest known machine of this kind. Moto Guzzi started in 1921. They built 450 motorcycles between 1921 and 1928. But they started winning a lot of races and getting a lot of attention. So they built 4,500 motorcycles for the 2930 model year. So that was a big bump for the company at that time. The bike had a reputation for being very reliable, being easily owner maintained, and good for endurance runs. One of the owners actually took a 1928 model from the factory in northern Italy and did a 3,500 mile excursion up to the Arctic Circle and back to demonstrate the bike's capability. So I read that, and then I read about the oil as a total sump system here. It's 2.5 liters of oil for a 500cc motorcycle. That sounds pretty unusual, but the design is using that extra oil in a big oil tank with a big front surface facing the wind to help cool the engine. And the same oil lubricates both the engine, the top end and the lower end and the transmission. All of that's oiled in one continuous sump. So that helps cool this engine and keeps it running very healthy and strong. And those are the kind of key reasons I wanted this bike for this particular event here in the United States.
So it's a 500cc single, is that correct?
500cc single. That's a good thumper. And a high compression engine.
Okay. And do you have a rough idea with the sidecar what total weight of your vehicle is?
Yeah, I think the total weight's probably right around 600 pounds. I'm guessing the motorcycle is between 300 and 400, and the sidecar is between 200 and 300. Now, we're used to looking at things like this sidecar, and it's this great big thing, and it's probably fiberglass. It's not. It's steel. It's like steel walls hood. And the whole sidecar frame is not chromoly. It's also steel. So this whole thing is quite heavy.
Wow.
500cc machine.
Yeah. So that's the weight of, say, a modern sport tour that could have, 120, 150 horsepower, perhaps. And roughly what's the horsepower rating of this bike?
I don't recall the actual horsepower rating. I mean, we're feeling really good if we can go 50 miles an hour downhill and actually continue to accelerate in a mild, incline. If we can continue accelerating in a mild incline, that's good horsepower. So.
Yeah, we did 36 going uphill on Wednesday when we were out, and that was very impressive.
Yeah, 36 miles an hour uphill. Wow. That's pretty good.
So you found this bike in Italy. You imported it. What condition was it in? I mean, it looks pretty nice from here, but I'm just looking at the front of it. It looks like it's nice and polished up. So what condition was it when you received it from Italy?
Yes. So unlike a lot of other cannonballers start with an old machine that isn't running and have to first get it restored and roadworthy and running. Within 5 minutes of taking this out of the crate, I was able to actually start it and get it running. So that's very impressive. Now the machine is also very forgiving. I was doing everything wrong at the time, and it still sticks up. So it's an interesting machine from that regard. I forgot the original question though.
Oh, well, it was just what condition was it in when you got it from Italy, and said you got it running right away?
So the dealership that was selling it on consignment for the gentleman was in his 90s, I believe. They couldn't get good information from him on when it was restored and what its history was. So what I can tell you from looking inside the motor, looking on the outside of the motor, looking at the original drum brakes that were on the machine, it is a very, very high mileage machine.
Okay.
Very nicely restored, probably sometime in the 80s or the 1990s, and probably not used, if at all, very much or if at all since. But the dealership that sold it to me made sure that it was running. So I at least started with something that was running and didn't have to figure that out first. Now I've had to figure out a lot since then to get it all ready, and we've been through every single system multiple times to tune and repair it. And we've also learned that you have to do maintenance on this motorcycle every 50, 100, 200 miles. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so we're a couple weeks out from the beginning of the Cannonball. How long ago? What?
1 week.
1 week. Oh, I guess it is. Yeah, it's the last week. Okay. So how long have you had it, and sort of tell us about the sort of preparation process for the Cannonball.
So we pulled it out of the crate around the 1st of June of last year. And the first thing was start riding it, see what breaks, see where its weak points are, learn how to fix those things. One of the first things we learned, after 100 miles, I had to do a valve adjustment. The exhaust valve in particular, come out of so much playing it that you couldn't hardly kickstart it anymore. But you fix that. So that's something we'll do every day. And actually, we have a checklist of about 60 things that we will do every day on the Cannonball race. That we start with pretty much a fresh motorcycle every day. And that should increase our chances of making 300-mile days. So, but things that we did, then right away in July, I broke 5 spokes in the front wheel. So that kind of disabled us from riding it for a while. And researching and trying to keep original size spokes and respoke the wheel. I learned a lot respoking an old wheel. It's also the most challenging thing to do is an old metal, steel rim to an old hub and get that true. But we did. Coming around through all that, I went to see another Cannonballer, Doc's Harley in Shawano, Wisconsin. He's one of the other sidecar riders. He said, Jonas, change your wheels. They allowed you to change your wheels, put some safe wheels on there so you're not crashing because of broken spokes. Update the disc brakes if you can and put some light on. Make sure you're visible. So we did all of those things. That's all we've really changed on this motorcycle is we put on a 12-volt LED light system. It's powered by Milwaukee rechargeable batteries. We changed all of the wheels out, and we added a disc brake. We moved the brake from the front wheel of the motorcycle to the sidecar and changed it over to a hand-operated disc brake there. So we're feeling we got 36 miles an hour uphill, we got 50 miles an hour downhill, and we got stopping power.
We got great stopping power.
We can do it.
Well, you probably just answered one of my questions is what sort of modifications are allowed within motorcycle Cannonball rules for safety, visibility, things like that. So you mentioned you've upgraded the brakes, you've got new wheels, you've got a modern LED lighting system. Is there anything else that you need to do or that they allow you to do to make sure that you're roadworthy on a modern road and so forth?
The replaceables, like we got a new chain, we make sure our sprockets, the chain and sprockets, right? Those things you can replace with new parts, obviously, but everything else, including the carburetor and magneto, have to be period specific and maybe not original to that machine. Lucky for us, a lot of the numbers, but all the parts in the motor that are numbered do match. But right. The magneto is something that might have been changed out. The carburetor it came with wasn't a 1928 version of the English ammo carb. It was the 1932 version. But we even stepped up a notch to the newer version of that. It's type 276 because it pulls all the air through a filter instead of through orifices getting dirt run through the engine. So period relevant or period specific modifications are allowed, right?
Okay.
Most guys had a wooden box on the back to carry stuff around. So almost all the Cannonballers have a box on the back so they can carry stuff around.
I've seen that in some photos. Yeah. So now you mentioned that you've got a 60 item checklist that you'll do at the end of every day. What is a typical, I know this, is this your first Cannonball, as you said, this for both of you?
Yep. We're Cannonball virgins, so to speak.
Okay. So 3,800 miles in 17 days. So I can't do the math in my head, but you're looking at what, 150, 200 miles a day, roughly? Is that about what it is?
Most of the days are between 200 and 300. Really, 35, 250, 260. There's one that's 299. And then the very last day is only 95 miles when we come to Oceanside.
So you're looking at very early starts, long days, and then at the end of the day, you've got to go. How long will it take to go through a 60-item checklist of maintenance?
So I've got help to do that part. The 60 items, when we practice it here with just 2 people wrenching on the bike, was an hour and a half. And I think our third time in, it's only going to be an hour to do the regular maintenance.
Okay.
Which leaves plenty of time for the unanticipated maintenance, the things that aren't supposed to break.
Right.
Yeah, there's some really fun things that are planned for us in the communities. The communities are really welcoming us in, and we have a reception of sorts that we're responsible to be at for at least a couple hours a night. So we will take questions. People will be coming through to see all the antique bikes. Some of our friends can join us at those the day's end of that particular map that we endure every single day. So, and then we'll be back at the hotel working on the bike and getting ready for the next day. So
I'm trying to imagine what it's like to be, sitting on your front porch somewhere in Knoxville, Tennessee, on a township road, right? Not a main road.
Right.
An antique motorcycle goes by, and then another one, and then another one.
Well, for anybody who's listening, I think you can go to motorcyclecannonball.com. They've actually got the daily itinerary, so you can look and see if the Cannonball is going to come through your town. Again, it's between September 7th and September 24th, I believe. So, yeah, obviously, if it's near where you live, go check out the traveling circus. I'm sure it's going to be quite a show to see all the bikes and so forth. So, what are some of the rules as a daily participant? Like I said, we talked a little bit about your bike, but what is it that you can and can't do throughout the day between point A and point B?
The 2 biggest things, under no circumstance are we allowed to communicate with our team. Like I can't call my mechanic and ask for help or advice to fix something, nor can they come rescue us if we break down during the day.
Okay.
That's just prohibited. The other thing that's not allowed, we're allowed to have our cell phones with us for safety. And they want us to, of course, post pictures on social media, but we are not allowed to use our phones to know where we are. That would be cheating to look at the Google Maps or Apple Maps on our phones. So we can't use that to get us unlost if we get lost. We have to use the paper map and backtrack and figure out how to get on the right route if we ever get off the route.
And we did hear that there's going to be some checkpoints, and we're not sure where they will be, and they might not even be visible to us. So someone may be there calculating us going by and saying, number 36 went by, 53 went by, or whatever. So that will anticipate how many points we get as we get through each day's rally map.
That's why there's a 36 placard on either side of the motorcycle that has to be clearly visible.
Somebody could be hiding behind a bush with a clipboard and some binoculars or something, and they're just like, all right, that one went by, that one went by. So the daily route, you said that you can't use a cell phone for assistance with navigation. The daily routes are not provided in advance. Is that correct?
Correct. They're provided the morning of. Rally
and you get a roll chart similar to kind of like an enduro style rally.
Yes, and then it's got a little twist.
It's exactly like an enduro style rally. So it's a rally with the same software. Turn by turn instructions will fit in this holder.
Okay.
And then we'll scroll it.
And then what do you do to keep track? Because those are based on mileage. What do you do to keep track of your mileage?
We're allowed to have an odometer.
Okay.
We're allowed to have an odometer that uses GPS.
Okay.
But glad we learned it now, that a lot of back roads don't have access to the GPS satellites. So we were a couple hours with no mileage when we're doing a practice run here in rural Wisconsin. Okay. So we switched out to old bicycle style odometer, but I managed to find one that doesn't require you to attach a magnet and have the magnets read. It's actually got a little device that you Velcro to the wheel hub. There's accelerometers inside there, so it can figure out when it's changing direction, and it can count the wheel revelations and do the math on our speed and our odometer. So we'll know how far from the start of the day we've traveled, and that's how the map instructions lay out. Like if you're 13.8 miles in, you need to turn left on something, right? So
okay.
We're not experts at that. Neither one of us. We haven't really had a chance to make our own maps in practice, which doesn't count if we make a map that goes somewhere we've already been to before, right?
Right. You don't know if you're lost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're off track. Well, and I mean, I've never done an enduro rally of any of that kind myself, but anything I've ever read or people I've talked to, that navigation is as big of a challenge, if not more of a challenge, than the actual riding itself, because that's an important part. You get off track, you miss a checkpoint. So this is an event where there is an ultimate winner based on points accumulation, and how are those points tallied?
Yeah. So it's 1 point per mile traveled.
Okay.
The different classes of motorcycles, I'm not sure if we each class gets a different handicap. So I know we're in class 1, which is the weakest, smallest, piddly motorcycle. So we're under 500. We're in class 1. We aren't supposed to be competing, at least not without a handicap, points against the 1200 cc B-twins.
Right.
I had heard we get extra handicap points for sidecar, for 3-speed. So there may be different points we can earn. But if we just set our goal on finishing every day on time without a breakdown, like always be moving, right. I think we'll be okay.
Right.
We'll be all right.
Well, and it release us like a couple hours earlier than
maybe an hour earlier.
Yeah.
In the morning, ahead of the race.
Gotcha. So if let's say you've got a 200-mile day, if you were to break down on mile 10 and you couldn't solve the problem, I mean, you can fix a bike yourself on the side of the road if it's fixable. Yeah. But you would get, let's say you went 10 miles, you had a breakdown, you couldn't get it fixed, and then you had somebody come pick you up, and you would just get 10 points for the day. Is that kind of it? However, it's handicapped. But if you went 190 miles and broke down, and you had to still be transported to the hotel, you would get 190 points, right? Is that how it kind of works? Okay.
Either the 190 or maybe up to the most recent checkpoint.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah.
You get partial credit for partial completion. Yes.
Okay. No, that's good. That's interesting. Like I say, I've read about the Cannonball, always been fascinated by it, but I didn't quite know the particulars of how the event was run and organized and what some of its rules were. So I want to ask about the people that this is obviously not just an effort of just the two of you. You're both here in this interview, but first of all, I want to, you have a name for your Moto Guzzi. What is that? Renata. And what's the story behind the name?
Well, Jonas's wife, Julie, picked the name based on the name being rebirth or reborn, or it has a little bit of strength in it for description.
Adventure. It's an old Roman goddess of adventure and rebirth.
So we're Renata's dream team.
Right. That seems very appropriate. So tell us about your team, your supporters. Like I said, I know this is a team effort. So
well, I had asked a couple of friends of mine locally who I thought might have enough free time or retired enough to have enough free time or be interested in. Before I knew it, something I thought I was going to do alone, I had a team of, actually there's 11 of us.
Wow.
On this team that have done a lot of work over the last year and a half to help prepare for this event. And there are a total of 8 of us going on the actual Cannonball adventure. And 3 of us are leaving in the van on Sunday, next Sunday. And then there's actually 4 of us. One's riding. Our lead mechanic, Chris, is actually riding his Harley Davidson route. And then there's 4 folks that are joining us in in Virginia Beach by flight. They're flying down. So it's amazing to have a team. So,
well, I mean, in terms of the support and I mean, obviously this is not an inexpensive endeavor. You not only had to buy the motorcycle and import it, but you had to do a lot of preparation and so forth. So do you have some sponsorship support, some help like that?
We do.
We have some incredible supporters. Well, I mean, I want to start with the grassroots supporters locally in our community. I mean, a lot of people, even if all they did is buy a T-shirt, right? Just buying a T-shirt is helping us out. We've got a count me in level of sponsorship we started when we launched the website, I think in February. And for $100, we put together a nice swag bag, a couple t-shirts, and we've got probably 75 people from our local community and my network and Brenda's network that have all pitched in. That's helped a lot. But then, we've got corporate sponsors that basically sponsor today, and we're putting a sign on the beer box. Today's miles made possible in part by. We've got a dozen of those sponsors, and then two really big sponsors. We really have to give a big shout out to Klein, the motorcycle gear company, has completely outfit us with a lot of gear for all conditions, from sea level to the Monarch Pass, 11,300 feet.
Rain gear.
We're prepared for rain. We're prepared for snow. We're prepared for heat. We will be dry and comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, we might suck at a couple other things, but we'll be warm and dry, or we'll be cool and dry. So
yeah, Klein makes fantastic gear. So if you guys are outfitted with their stuff, hot, cold, you'll be all set. So
Power Sports.
Another big shout out, Power Sports. They're our other platinum sponsor. They're a dealership here in Wisconsin with half a dozen locations, to my knowledge. They sell Honda motorcycles. They sell some cool electric motorcycles. They've got a lot of lawn and garden equipment, but they really stepped up helping us with stuff that we would have had to spend a lot of money on.
Parts.
Generator, parts, chain, oil, chain clean. Anything that we need to clean or lubricate the bike, they're helping us out with, and they've been just outstanding.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and I've been riding for 20 years, and 13 of those years I've ridden with an all-female social riding group called Stilettos on Steel, and I am the Wisconsin ambassador for the Stilettos, and our president, Ann, sponsored us for a day. So just a big shout out to all the Stilettos that are meeting us in Cape Girardeau and in Utah and in Virginia Beach and in California. We have girls meeting us throughout the trip. And
fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, that's a real blessing.
Well, I mean, family support, community support, the corporate support, all that. So if anybody's listening, you have merch that's available. If somebody wanted to buy something online, how would they find that?
We do. You can go to our website. It's www.peglegspeedshop.com. And we do have a store there for merchandise. We have a store there for sponsors. And then there's a link there. You can also get to our YouTube channel. We will be uploading videos at least once daily, maybe a couple times daily, explaining what's happening along the route, what the adventure's looking like.
Great. The most popular shirt, though, is the one with the Cannonball map on the back, and it has most of our stops. So almost everybody is really, dying to get their hands on one of our Peg Leg Speed Shops with Cannonball run on the back.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, we'll include links to your website and social media channels, YouTube and so forth, in the show notes. So your social media channels, though, the handle would be Peg Leg Speed Shop for all of those?
Yes.
Yep, Peg Leg Speed Shop.
Fantastic.
It was free. Nobody took it yet. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. So in terms of again, preparation, I'm just curious about what it is that you take with you, since you both have to be self-sufficient. You can't get any outside support. So what is it that you would take with you on a daily route or daily ride?
I'm glad you asked that, because Brenda and I are both adventure tourers. We've both done, multi-state cross-country riding before. And we kind of started with that mentality. We loaded up so much stuff on the bike and realized we only need with us what we might need that day. So if there's no rain in the forecast, we don't need to take rain here. I'll cut back. Like, I'm prepared to fix a flat inner tube, but I'm not going to trip apart and fix a whole flat tire on the side of the road like you would. I mean, it's going to take over an hour, and it'd be really tough to get that done. So if we have a major flat tire, we're just going to get on the broken bus, the short bus, and trailer the bike back parking lot. Right. So even tools and stuff, we're really, really pared back. Looking at weight, I want to reduce the weight as much as we can. Right. Even the extra auxiliary gas can, if I know we're going to have gas within 50 miles, and our range is about 75, I'm not going to take gas with us because it's just that's a couple pounds I can just shed.
Right.
So
Right. And in terms of, I mean, again, these are going to be long days. So, I mean, are you going to be eating snack bars and protein bars on the road? Or are you going to have gas stops? You actually have dedicated lunch stops or anything like that? Or how does this work?
there's a couple of good days where there's an organized lunch stop. They really
they're
haven't
kind of
told us.
required, I think.
Okay.
So,
The
but
checkpoints.
otherwise, yeah, we'll have some. We're pretty healthy. We probably eat more healthy snacks on the bike than we do if we're out in public. But it's just nice to be able to have a little protein quick if we need it, and a lot of water and sunscreen and sunscreens, and because we just don't want to bake, especially if we do have to be on the side of the road. We decided to pack an umbrella just in case.
Smart. Super smart. Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, so obviously it's going to be September, so where variable weather can be variable, not just time of year, but different places. So are there specific areas that you're passing through that you're looking at as challenges, or something you're a little bit dreading?
Yes, I did look up the average temperature in each of our destinations and the elevation and the elevation change. But some days that really stick out. One day is going to be Colorado Springs to Montrose, Colorado. So we start at 6,000 feet and we go over 200 miles and we climb up to 11,300 foot elevation. So that's like a vertical mile of climbing. And then we have to descend a vertical mile that same day yet. So between the carburation and the brakes, that's going to be a challenging day. The day in Utah, Green River to Kanab, Utah, that's the 300-mile day.
Okay.
That's country. It's probably not going to be a lot of fast-going roads. So that's going to be a 10-hour, probably 10, maybe 11, 12-hour day.
Right.
Through that.
And it's probably going to be hot.
And it's going to be hot. So.
Yeah, I was going to say some of those desert areas in September can be pretty hot.
A number of us riders that I've talked to are worried about carburation getting up over the Rocky Mountains and worried about heat coming down into Southern California and Utah, Nevada, Southern California.
Yeah, if you're going to Oceanside, I haven't looked at the route, but I mean, you're going to have to go across some desert areas. And obviously you're talking about Utah, but definitely Southern California, that can be easily over 100 degrees and really hot. And so I'm a big believer in hydration packs and cooling vests and things like that. Whenever I know I have to ride across those areas in the summertime. So, since your traveling speed that you're talking about is lower than your average traffic speed, even on a back road, because on a back road, some people drive even faster because there's nobody there. But so what are the maybe the rules, or what are you supposed to do to sort of maintain visibility, given that you're going to be a slower moving vehicle on some of these public roads?
So we do have to have reflective tape on the back of our RVs. I don't know if it has to be in the slow moving vehicle triangle, but we are planning on having a slow moving vehicle triangle with us.
Okay.
I mean, I think that'll be helpful, especially in the more rural areas where more people know what that means.
Right.
I am concerned about being on a long straight road in Kansas and having a township road and still having a diesel truck come up behind us doing 75 miles an hour.
Yeah,
because that's what you do out there. And our top speed is 35 or 40, even on that condition. So we are required to have a flashing strobe light with us to put on the back if the weather conditions are at all dark or stormy, or we're going through tunnels, like dark tunnels. And we're considering just running that strobe. It's a bicycle light.
Sure.
Just put it flashing red all the time.
That would be smart. I could see that as a wise move, because like you said, if somebody is, especially if they're, if it's a route for them, it's a trucking route or traveling route, and they're going at a high rate of speed and they're kind of zoned out because they do it all the time. Something that gets their attention, they're like, wait, what is that thing? Is it an Amish buggy? But if it were black, maybe it would be. But so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was just, it's interesting because the things that you can encounter on a motorcycle trip out in the middle of nowhere that are just very unexpected. I was in Idaho for a Yamaha press launch, and I was able to ride the motorcycle home. I had 2 days to do that. Rode south from Boise right through southwestern Idaho, which there's nothing there. It's just high desert. And I passed a Department of Transportation, one of those orange utility hazard signs that was lit up. It said slick road next 50 miles. And I was thinking, oh no, they put down a layer of oil or something like that. What did they do? and I'm going along, and I'm on a sport tour, so I'm going 75 miles an hour. It's mostly straight roads, and I see all this black stuff all over the road. It looks like, I didn't know if they were little bits of rubber or little tar balls. I couldn't quite tell what it was. And when I came to a stop, I realized that everything on the ground that's black is moving. They were Mormon crickets for for more than 50 miles, because at the 50-mile mark was the Nevada border. Millions and millions and millions of Mormon crickets. For whatever reason, they weren't in the air. I wasn't hitting them with my bike, but they were just plastered all over the road. And so some of them were alive, some of them were squished. It was just the craziest thing I've ever experienced. So I'm sure you'll encounter something that you wouldn't expect, that won't just be wind or rain or something like that. So, yeah.
Sure, we will.
This is a thing that you guys have been preparing for well over a year. You've got about a week out. So kind of what's the countdown look like for you guys?
There's a few very small things we want to do yet. It's a minor tweaking on the sidecar adjustment. I do want to try adding a rear sprocket with an extra tooth or two to see if we can get a little higher top speed without compromising our getting started off the line. We've got to practice starting this thing. It is really, really teaching me a lot right now. Renata's being really difficult when it comes to hot starts. I can cold start. I'm having a lot of challenges hot starting. So, and the only thing that's going to fix that is starting it 3 or 4 times a day from now until launch day. So, have to do that and work on some other carbs. We want to have backup carburetors ready to go. But we had to leave today. We're ready. We're ready.
Yeah. So I know that we trying to do a recording of the starting process. We wouldn't get the audio to work on this Zoom call, but if you can do it, you say you have video clips of starting the bike. We'd love to maybe include one of those. So one, hear what your bike sounds like, but also maybe you can walk us through what that starting process is, because most of us are just used to thumbing a starter. So it's a multi-step process that you've kind of got to do a lot of things to get just right. So yeah, we'd love to see that. So.
I did repeat last week's attempt with the same video and the same explanation. I think you'll like it very much.
Okay, that's great. And, in terms of the things that you said that you're on the bike, you're really trying to minimize weight. So you really don't want to bring anything with you that's not essential. So your toolkit, I imagine, has got to be just, pared down to what are the essentials. You're not going to do a major overhaul on the side of the road, but what do you consider like your vulnerabilities? Like, here are the things that, if there's a weak point, here's what I need to carry with me in terms of spare parts and some tools for that.
Many spare plugs. I mean, if anything starts going wrong and I follow up a plug, it's just easier to replace it with a better plug.
Yeah.
So I've got 4 extra spark plugs. Early on, when you couldn't kickstart it, a lot of times you just change spark plug and it'll run. So we've got plenty of those. I do have some really nice, thin, lightweight titanium wrenches. So anything that comes loose, I can tighten up. I am carrying a little container of extra nuts and bolts that are fitting anywhere around the bike. A lot of things are vibrating off. You can't put enough Loctite on everything. You're not going to find everything, but got a lot of them. I'm prepared. The little rubber O-ring that's on the gas cap. I'm going to pick that up and I can't find it. Right. So I've got an extra O-ring. I don't want to be spilling gas all over the place. So simple things that aren't going to take up a lot of space or weight that might save me a lot of time. We've got along. I do have a very interesting single point jack where together I'll be able to lift and put this prop under. We'll be able to get a wheel off.
Okay.
It's a lot different with a sidecar than just being a motorcycle to get to tip it over. Right. Pull that out. I've got to lift it up. And we have to be able to do these things on our own too. So you're right. I'm not prepared to overhaul something or replace a magneto on the road, things like that. But the small things that might happen, a broken cable here and there, or missing fastener or missing nut, something like that, I should be able to repair.
Well, I have to say, Jonas, Brenda, this sounds like one heck of an adventure. I admire you both. I have a lot of respect. I mean, it's really cool to hear that, you had an idea, you had, like you said, you've been into antique motorcycles, you hear about the Cannonball, like, wow, I didn't even know this really existed. And then to just, set your mind to it. You had to acquire a bike, you had to do the preparation. You've been doing this for well over a year. And that there's not really going to be anything easy about this experience. It's a challenge to, keep the bike running. It's got to be both of you. It's going to be long miles. It's going to be long hours. And you've got to do this day after day after day. So I wish you both the best. I commend you both for your efforts and your commitment to doing this. And like I said, I know this is a team effort. I know you've got a lot of people behind you. I'm sure family, friends, community, all that really makes a big difference. Like I said, you've got some wind in your sails, so that's great.
Spouses.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a team 36. We've already committed. We're doing this again in 2025. So you haven't seen the months. The next time might not be a Moto Guzzi. We don't know. We don't know what year, but we are going to do this again.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I really enjoyed speaking with both of you. And of course, we've talked about the lead up. I would love to talk to you both after the Cannonball is over. I want to hear about your experience. This is a first time thing. I know you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a lot of, unexpected things happen and experiences. I hope that you're both able to finish and get to Oceanside and place well. So again, I wish you both the best of luck. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Greg, we will have some live video from every single day while we're on the road on our YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to go to the YouTube channel right now, we have the shipping, the uncrating, the first start. Jonas and I riding in the snow last March. There's a lot of extra information on that website other than the sponsorship and such. So if you go there, you can see some of our live stuff. So
fantastic. So peglegspeedshop.com, Pegleg Speed Shop on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Find them on social media. Go check out some of their videos. Go buy a shirt. I'm sure every dollar helps. Every dollar counts. So again, I think this will be a great adventure. We look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thanks, Greg.
Awesome. For the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Drevenstead. Thanks for listening and keep the rubber side down.
If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.